All right. Thank you for tuning in to Watching the World. We have an exciting show. This is the first morning show that we will be having. Wake up and watch with Watching the World, folks. Yes, we're going to have coffee and headlines. This one says, Dad, because I am a proud father, folks. Yes, I'm a full time dad. I show up to everything from day one. That's how I do it, folks. And that's the way every man should do it. Show up for your kids. We have breaking news in regards to Sean Diddy Combs' trial. Now, listen, I've been telling you guys that the government had a strong lineup when it came to Capricorn Clark. As far as when it came to the RICO, they were focusing on the two times perhaps that she was kidnapped in LA, the whole debacle with Kid Cudi and how she alleged that Diddy came to her door at 5:30 in the morning when he found out that Kid Cudi was cheating with Cassie and he was banging on her door, almost insinuated that he was hitting the door with the gun. It was so loud. And basically, Diddy came into her residence and says, Kid Cudi, she's cheating with Kid Cudi. You didn't tell me? Get your clothes on. We're going to go kill this N word. And then she went with him. She is the individual because in court, Kid Cudi came into court. Everybody was excited to see him. Even Diddy. I've been in the courtroom every day of the trial, even for jury selection. This particular day, I saw Diddy turn around to watch Kid Cudi walk into the courtroom, folks. It was that exciting. He talked about how Diddy allegedly broke into his home. Now, they had the police officer come and he testified that when a person calls the dispatch determines like what type of call this is, and that will determine which type of police officer they'll send the case to. So in this case, it sounded like a burglary. So they sent over two police officers to Kid Cudi's home. Kid Cudi testified that he thought, or Diddy actually had called him from the residence. So all of these things are happening. We get to hear it in court. But guess what? They brought in Capricorn Clark that worked for Diddy as his assistant. She lived in the house with him. She shadowed him. She helped set up the freak offs, all of these type of things. And she worked for him over an extended period of time, off and on for years. But she is the person that put Diddy inside Kid Cudi's house along with one of his security guards. She put him in the house. So this is how they allege kidnapping of her because they say she was taking against her will, folks. Yes, indeed. There's another instance when you look at the verdict sheet, it shows that in New York, she was allegedly kidnapped again. She came on the stand, she told about this whole scenario. To me, it seemed like a movie. And if it was true, it would be very damning indeed. Capricorn Clark sat on the stand. Now, mind you, I'm watching her in the courtroom. She's sitting there, rather petite lady. She comes across as believable at times, but she's crying throughout the day. She was crying more than Cassie. She cried more than Mia, if you ask me. Okay, that's my opinion. But anyway, Capricorn described how she was responsible when Diddy had borrowed jewelry from Jacob the jeweler back in the day. And in this particular time, he had borrowed a Jesus piece necklace, like what you often hear Kanye West talk about, also a bracelet, and also a watch. And folks, I don't have any notes. I'm going off of memory because I've been in the courtroom, and that's how much I've been covering this case. So she gets to the airport. She has the jewelry, at least she thinks she does, folks, and it goes missing. So then she calls back to 440 Broadway in Manhattan, where the corporate office is, and she says, lock the place down, search everybody. And she came back to the building. They searched everyone, they couldn't find the jewelry. So then they turned their attention to Capricorn. And one of Diddy's security guards took her home that night. She said she lived in Queens with a roommate and that this particular security guard ransacked and searched her whole apartment. Can you imagine that, folks? How would you feel? So now she realizes that they're looking at her. Okay. So he did not find the jewelry at her place of residence. So he said, listen, this is not over. I'm going to pick you up in the morning. So the next morning, she testified, folks. I watched this lady out of her own mouth. She said that he picked her up, took her to this corporate building. At the time, Diddy was in the process of changing Bad Boy from one building to another. So the new building is where they took her, and it was under construction. She made it seem like the place was pretty raggedy at the time, folks. She said that the security guard walked her into this building and he locked the door. They locked the door from the outside from behind. So you know what that means, right? Imagine you come into someone's house and they lock you in from the outside. That sends a strong message, folks. She said they went up to the sixth floor, and as the elevator opened or the door opened, she saw a fella that was 5 times as wide as her, a fat fellow. And he was sitting at this table, a folding table, she said, with there were some folding chairs there. Seemed like a rim shot operation, right? And he was smoking like a freight train back to back. So imagine that. Now we're building a picture like a mafia movie, right? This is what she's saying, folks. That's why I remember it so well because of the way it was told. She sat down at this table before this large man and he looks at her intently, right? And he says, we're going to give you these lie detector tests. And B, he says, in B, if you don't pass, we're going to throw you in the East River. So imagine this, right? Happening to you, and you don't have a phone, you have no way of communicating, right? So she went through a whole day of lie detector tests, okay? She was so anxious that this big fella, he told her, he says, listen, because the first test was inconclusive. So he says, listen, you need to calm down. And if you don't calm down, you're going to end up in the East River. So this is the whole story that was painted coming out of Capricorn Clark's mouth. Now, I will say, under cross examination, her story was a little shaky, but not as shaky as most of the people that I saw come into the courtroom and testify in regards to the case. So, when it comes to the RICO, the prosecutors put out a verdict sheet. And on the verdict sheet, there's 2 points of interest that they had. Okay, they had previous to yesterday. Number one, or A, involved the kidnapping in LA, out west. The B portion involved kidnapping in New York. Now, they did not say Capricorn Clark's name. We just come to a reasonable conclusion that the two kidnappings involved Capricorn because, ironically, it happened in those two locations. Well, lo and behold, folks, yesterday, the defense, her name is Shapiro, she went up to really set the stage and try to refute a lot of the government's stance on this case. And then she brought out something that I had not readily called to mind. She talked about when it comes to kidnapping, she framed it with what happened to Cassie. And I had forgot about that. Cassie was beaten by Diddy, and her bruising was so large that he did not want anyone to see it. So they put her in a hotel for about a week, and they would have to bring her food. Some of the assistants talked about how they would bring her favorite food from this little restaurant that she likes. So that's technically a third kidnapping that was expressed in this court case. Now, I'm not saying that all of it is 100% believable. I'm just here to tell you certain things that were said so that you can look at the bigger picture and come to your own conclusion about the matter. Okay. So, when it comes to that and the government stance on the kidnapping, we have breaking news, folks. We have an update, and it says the prosecutors are no longer arguing attempted kidnapping, attempted arson, and aiding and abetting sex trafficking. Isn't that something? So Shapiro, her arguments yesterday have already lined Diddy up for a better outcome, in my opinion. It says the government is no longer planning to proceed on these theories of liability. So, Diddy, from what I saw at the very beginning of the case, folks, I never forget the first day I saw Diddy. Last time I saw Diddy was in concert, and he's quite animated. But on the first day of court, when they did the jury selection, he came out. He looked terrified. Diddy does not look that way now. As of yesterday, he looks much stronger. He's actually getting haircuts now. You could tell he's in a different position. Yesterday, when he stood up to before the judge, and the judge was asking him because they want to make sure that he's not being led astray by his attorneys or what have you. So the judge asks, "Hey, listen, do you want to testify in your own case?" And he stood up and he answered. He didn't even appear to be nervous. And then after that, he thanked the judge for doing a good job on this case. So he's been fighting so many times, Diddy in court, just to help you guys understand. They only gave him 5 outfits. Now I have inside information on the case, and I'm going to share it at this point. So he was approved for 5 outfits. He chose the sweater and the pants. He wanted the people to see him as he sit. He didn't want to come in with the high rolling suits and all of that. Not that there's anything about it, but right now, folks, that's not his reality. So he wanted to express that. But in court, I've noticed I watch everything. Like I said, I invested a lot. Just so you guys know, and this is the morning show, so this is not a Diddy show, so I need to get away from Diddy and get to these other stories. But you guys see how committed I am to this story. But I wanted to give you that breaking news. But I'll add this before we get into Trump and Tyler Perry, because the case is about to end. So we're going to transition more into other cases. One of the networks gave me a case to follow. So I'll be covering other cases and going on the bigger networks. But I'm committed to watching the world. I started this channel and I want to see it through. And I'm also going to bring on very interesting people for you to get their perspective, which may be much different than mine. But in court, Diddy is attentive all day. He takes his glasses off a lot, especially when he feels like somebody's lying about him. That's an indication like, oh, this is crazy to me. He's often writing notes to Agnifilo or Tenny Garagos. She sat right next to him. I noticed that when she sits down, he often pulls out the chair for her and sits her down nicely. There's been times on his left-hand side, he has the man, Brian Steele, which I'm telling you, the guy's a heavy hitter. I'm going to be following all of Brian Steele's work. I told him that. So I look forward to shadowing Brian Steele from here out. So you're going to hear about all of his cases. He has another RICO case that's coming through, folks, and we're going to cover that as well. But there have been times at the table where Diddy he pours water for people sitting at the table like Brian Steele. So you get to see that he's trying to fight his case. Now, the government is laid out to what I would believe to be a solid case. And the reason why I say that is because if I sat in that seat, I'd probably be shaking and baking, right? That's how serious it is. I've heard it all, right? I've seen it all. I've seen the jurors' expression, even the juror that they kicked out. I had my own point of view about him because I was actually taking a lot of notes about different things that I could see or even read lips and what have you. Yeah, folks, I'm pretty nosy. So I could pretty much tell you about each person, although I would never say it on the court. I do not want to have an adverse effect on the case, but I'm just telling you, I've documented so much about this case. I'll be talking about it for the rest of my life. But I will be covering other cases. As you know, any of you that follow my Facebook, I'm more of a Trump. Uh, I criticize Trump a lot, but Donald Trump's brother was my client here in New York. Okay, and he recently died. I'd say about 5 years ago. So I know a lot about the family. That's why I had attended Donald Trump's trial starting off because I understood certain things that Donald Trump's father had said. So I like to just compare and see if he's checking those points off and how he develops in his career as a president. But I went to his trial first. I covered his trial. I wasn't as verbal on my channel as I am now. I wish I was. But anyway, I was there, folks, in the midst of it. And Donald Trump walked past me every day, just like with Diddy, he doesn't walk past the audience or the people that sit. I call it in the church pews because we're sitting in these hard wooden chairs, but because I requested a different chair, now I sit in a particular seat every day. So, it's quite the experience. Donald Trump, when he came in, they would walk him out because of the way the courtroom was designed. They would walk him right out of the back. I was in the courtroom when the guy, I think his name is Costello, who was an attorney that Trump had sort of kind of consulted with. He was out of Long Island and he was getting really testy with the judge. And so the judge kicked all of us out of the courtroom. So I had the privilege of being there in that moment. It was probably a very rare moment in time. And also, it was a moment involving a former president who's currently the president of the United States. Now, I am pretty critical, but let me tell you something about this channel, whether you like it or not. Today, you might ask me a question. I'm going to tell you what I think in the moment. If I see something negative about Donald Trump, I'll report it. But guess what, folks? If I see something positive about Donald Trump, I'm going to report it. Personally, Donald Trump has made me a lot of money because I'm an investor in the stock market. And Donald Trump, right now, it's going through the roof. Now, if you were on my Facebook page, I posted all the stocks that you could possibly buy. I could go now to my Facebook history and show you about 15 different stocks. And if you look at it then, Tesla was $80 when I was trying to tell folks to buy it, right? Because I could see what was happening with Donald Trump. And I know certain things about how he moves. I study the guy, right? Now Tesla is at 343. It doesn't matter if you like Elon Musk or not. When you drink a Coke, when you eat a cheeseburger, you don't sit there and say, does the CEO of this company like Africa? So knock it off. When it comes to making money, you need to use your intelligence and not let emotional people cause you to stay in a position that's unfavorable financially. So I've helped people make tons of money online as far as they follow. Like I told some of my subscribers, check out SoFi, SOFI. It's already up since I told you guys about it. It's already up $1.50. So if you bought 100 shares, boom, you would have made some money. So, but Donald Trump, I'm telling you, when it's all said and done, this guy is going to push the market. He's already pushed it tremendously. That's how I'm able to go and enjoy this trial. Donald Trump is basically pushing the market. So if you listen to me, you may be able to, and I'm not charging. I'm not here to talk about finances. Since I'm talking about Trump, this is how I'm going to preface the story that I'm about to get into. So anyway, that's the point of interest. For those of you who want to know about it, I will be sharing certain lives and certain points, but it's up to you. It's not something that I'm focused on with this channel. But anyway, getting to Donald Trump, everybody know pretty much that follow the news that there was a big strike in Iran, and today Donald Trump posted that it was a success. Okay, so I'm very interested as I'm ending this Diddy trial. I will be covering Trump, and I'm trying to help you guys understand why. And number one, folks, is the president of the United States. And number two, if you want to make money and invest, why not understand what's happening, understand the major companies, understand how to hedge your risk, and potentially build generational wealth for the generations to come? That's how you're going to live forever. You can have your beliefs whichever way. Okay, you're going to go to heaven. Okay, some people are going to live in paradise. But guess what? Your kids are going to live on. And so you can leave them in a better position probably than what your parents left for you. And that's what this whole message is about. But anyway, so just from Diddy's case, and I've been covering it, right? What I told you guys 3 weeks. Diddy is a monster, okay? You could say that. He did a lot of terrible things. But Diddy is a small part of a big picture. Yesterday in court, They're framing Diddy in a certain light for RICO, and guess what case they use to put the screws to Diddy? Shapiro mentioned Kelly versus the government. So now, because R. Kelly had a one-man band RICO, now it sets up the case sets a precedence for future cases, right? And I have attorneys on the channel that'll break it down for you. They've been coming on. I had two attorneys on 2 nights ago. In fact, actually, one is a legal analyst, and she's on top of her game. She's a professor, folks. She teaches law, and she's on the channel every week, right? We take good care of her here. Her name is Candace Kelly. You'll see her on Roland Martin. You'll see her. We're doing on July the 1st. I'm honored that she even asked me. We're doing a live broadcasting, folks, before a live studio audience, and the seats have sold like hotcakes. You know, they're gone. It's actually a free event. But what I'm saying is there's so much interest in our take, and I have to say, we've been really trying to bring you guys solid information, not the salacious stories, not that, the UFO landed on top of the courthouse and the aliens are going to take Diddy away today at 1 o'clock. Like, people make up so much bogus stuff just to get a click. They don't care about the individual. They do not care about the individual has kids that are going to school and they get to hear, oh, we heard your dad was drinking baby oil. Oh, nobody cares. They do not care. This is the life we live in. But on a human level, nobody really wants people talking about them, but they have a double standard because it's putting money. It's like a lot of people that are covering these cases from what I have seen, and this is supposed to be my morning show. I'm sorry, guys. I'm going off on this whole case and everything. Okay, so I'll get back to the morning show. But what I have seen, right, is that a lot of people are covering stories to eat. You know, they have to get these clicks because they're trying to pay their rent and pay their car notes. They need to. So if you get behind and they can't pay their bills, they tell a bigger story. You see what I'm saying? So I'm beyond all that. So that's why I'm so happy to bring you guys just the facts. I don't want to add anything to it. I don't want to take away anything to it. And I take notes so that I try to give you an inside scoop. Why is this important? Because on a federal case, they do not allow cell phones and cameras and so forth in the courtroom. So it's often good to have somebody with a level head go in and say, okay, they said oranges are orange. Oh, the next guy come out and they say oranges are purple. Oh God, oranges are purple. It's insanity, folks. So we need to get away from that, and we really need to get rid of bullying and abuse. My channel is all about fighting abuse on any level, and I always say men should not hit. I know we're in a woke moment, and you know, women can be men, men can be whatever. But I'm just going back to the base of where my life began, what my grandfather told me. Men do not hit women and children. Period. Neither should you be out here abusing anyone. But every day, even on my channel now, I don't really care. But I have guys, they come in. It's usually a male figure. Oh, this stupid hat, stupid, all day long, you know. Guy probably don't even have two nickels to rub together. And he's on my comments trying to tell me how to live my life. It's the weirdest thing ever. So if they're doing it here, these people are doing it everywhere. So we need to eradicate this craziness. But anyway, getting back to the morning show, folks, I'm sorry. I'll try to be more focused on the next one. But this first one, I had to get out a lot of stuff, and I still haven't even touched 1%. But I said all that to say about this case about Diddy. It sets the stage for what you see now happening with Fat Joe, Tyler Perry. Now, with Tyler Perry, this is not the first case that I've heard about. And I think on the first one, I think he had some big names that helped him resolve it. It's kind of like what we saw with TD Jakes. TD Jakes has some serious court cases. And guess what, folks? I'm going to cover it because it's in court. That's why I like to cover the cases, because I'm not telling you what I saw on this silly little YouTube station that's making up nonsense or some stupid blog. I get the transcripts and I just report on it. We could sit and go through the transcripts and drink some coffee, or we could have a glass of wine at night and go through it. Drink responsibly, people. I don't want you drinking where you can't even walk to your bedroom if that's, if you're sitting on the couch. So be responsible. But at any rate, when TD Jakes had his issue, they all came forward to help him clean the internet. People were getting hit on their channels. So now these cases are starting to get serious, and we see a big case happening with Tyler Perry. Is he guilty? I wouldn't dare try to take a stance on it because I already seen with Diddy. Most of it, I'd say 60% of what I saw online, and I have to be at court at 12. So, okay, we still have some moments here. Okay, so yeah, so I could give another 15 minutes. Yeah. So most of the things I saw online with Diddy turned out to not be true, or it's not in the court case. There's no mention about these white parties and people going into the back rooms. Now, we know probably these white parties happen. I've even seen pictures, but the allegations that this case that we thought it was built on is not there. The whole no Diddy movement talking about Diddy doing things to men, from what I've heard in court, that's not true. And Cassie came on, all of the women in his life, you think they would go there and say, yeah, he even did something with a man. It had not come out in court. I'm just telling you what's in court. Okay. Also, when it comes to Diddy, they also said on the media, I'm talking about the big stations, folks. They said that there were drugs in the baby oil. In court, it came out very clear and precise. There was no drugs in the baby oil. The only thing that Diddy would like is that to run the baby oil under hot water, steaming hot water, people, because he liked to see shiny bodies. Yeah, folks, he likes the shiny bodies. He's a very interesting fella, I must say. So they would go through, and we saw in the last couple of days, they would clear through like 5 bottles and one free cough. That's a lot of baby oil. And on top of that, you're using Astroglide. And we know that that's some sort of lubricant, right? When they arrested him, they got 900 bottles of Astroglide, not the big bottles, but they have small bottles. And there was 200 bottles of baby oil. So, but no drugs in it that you hear on these channels. So I would just say be careful when you're following. I know it sounds good and you get excited, but now you start repeating things that are not accurate. It just doesn't make you look good. That's all I'm saying. And if, right, maybe instead of getting 1,000 people watching your videos, you only get 10. But guess what? Those 10 are getting accurate information, and they have someone that is going to the courthouse and giving them a sense of what's right and what's wrong. And then you're better positioned. It's kind of like what I say, I trade stocks. You want to have the right information so that you can be successful. You're investing so that you can gain, not lose, folks. And that's what it is. So even on a personal level in your life, mentally, what you put into your mind or the decisions you make, because what I see in business, the things I'm doing now, I don't really see the benefit until like 6 months. So that works for me today. If I'm doing well, it's because I made great decisions 3 to 6 months ago, and now those seeds are growing, folks. So mentally, we need to fill our minds with some good information. Like imagine if you started waking up in the morning reading self-help books about areas of your life that people tell you you need to work on this, but you might push back. But imagine if you take it on and say, hey, listen, such and such says I have an attitude problem. So, or maybe I'm a little lazy. So then you start doing self-help books in that regard, you're going to rise. But if you spend most of your life on bullshit, you're going to have bullshit results. And sorry for my French. It is what it is, folks. But I'm just trying to make that point. So getting back to the morning show, and then I'm going to close out. Fat Joe, similar to Diddy now. In fact, this is what I learned from Diddy case. Cassie came out with her. This is in court, and I'm calling it like I see it. Cassie came out with her $20 million lawsuit, and that set everybody in motion. That set everybody in motion. So then you have Bonner contacting her, and they put together a story. They make up a story about her being hanged off of the balcony. And so, because of that, that's the reason why the attorney was able to prove that on September the 26th, 2016, that Diddy was actually in New York. He wasn't even in LA. So, when you make up these stories, this is what happened. Okay, this is what happened. Um, Also, in the case, we've seen with other individuals as well. In fact, Bonner is testifying that Cassie helped her make up that story. So then you have to wonder, like, how much stuff did Cassie make up, and why are they in here under oath and they're allowed to? Well, not allowed to, but they are building this picture about Diddy when various things are just not true. And that's why now the case is a lot of people, like when I first started with the case, a lot of people you couldn't dare say there, well, maybe he'll walk from this case. Now, when you walk outside of the courtroom, most people, especially people of color, are saying free Diddy, oh, he's gonna walk. The government has just made up this story, and people are realizing that this case sets the stage for other cases to come, and it's quite scary if the government is overcharging him, as most people feel. Now, when it comes to beating women, all of the abuse, all of that, everybody's on deck. Most people who don't abuse others, they feel like, okay, give him time, let him deal with that, but it's not necessarily this big RICO, a one man band. But the government, in my opinion, sitting in the courtroom every day, right? And I'm sorry if this offends you. It is what it is, folks. You can email me and tell me you didn't like it. But it's just like going to the casino. Can you really beat the house? They make up the rules, right? You're playing against the government when the government has the ability, they have all the power, they hold all the cards, is what I'm saying. So it's a tough case for anyone to beat. However, there are some jury members that may think differently and they might dig in their heels. But in many cases that I have seen personally, when you have two or three people that are not going with the crowd, the judge will keep sending them back until maybe they have a complete unanimous decision, folks. So that's where it's at. So, based on that, when it comes to Fat Joe, and with, as I told you, with Bonner and Cassie, and also then Mia saw Cassie's case, right? And then Jane Doe saw Cassie's case and they started to align themselves. And then also Don Richard saw Cassie's case and then she files her case. You see what I'm saying? And a lot of their cases are, you would say Cassie's case was like the framework of their cases. In fact, they probably read very similar, same allegations. So then when you go over to Fat Joe, I start to see similarities to Cassie's lawsuit. It's 20 million. Cassie's lawsuit was 20 million. Being forced to have relations, intercourse with all these women, it was 4,000 that this gentleman is claiming about Fat Joe. So what I'm saying is maybe these things happened, maybe they didn't. We don't know. But when you have one case, it affects other cases that are coming down the line. Look at Tyler Perry, 260 million the guy's going for, with a similar tone to what's happening with Diddy. Now, what I have noticed from these cases is that when the allegations come, then the federal government starts to investigate the individuals. So it is quite possible that we see these guys who, like Fat Joe, Tyler Perry, and so forth, there'll be more to come, right? Because usually we see more victims come out when the first victim come to, so that turns into a big fiasco, right? So we probably, it's very likely that some of this is going to turn into another federal court case, and I'll be there covering it, folks. Yes, indeed, I'll be there covering it, and yeah. Shout out to all of you guys. Enjoy your coffee. But I definitely will. Some people don't like that I cover Trump. You know, folks, you could just cut that part out. Come back. It's like a buffet. Take what you want or what have you. Leave what you don't like. But it is what it is. Go out today and do some research on the company SoFi. Put some dollars in your pocket. SOFI. Write it down. Check it out. Do your research. Do your homework. But it's highly, highly likely for this company to soar. And you could research it. You could also set up a bank account. I'm not affiliated with them, but I am an investor in the company. I will tell you that. But it's something worth looking into, just like you would look into other great stocks like Amazon, Google, Rocket Lab. There's so many, there's a host of them that, you have to educate yourself before you invest. But I often told people, if you buy one stock, and right now SoFi has gone up from $13 to 14.50 or something. I saw yesterday when I came out of court. You buy one, now you're in for $14. And then 3 weeks later, you notice it's at 17. You're like, wait a minute, my money's increasing. Maybe I need to buy more stock. Maybe I need to do more research, folks. And that's what I'm trying to tell you from somebody that's experienced. I don't have a infomercial. I don't have some way of making money off of your selection or what have you. I'm just telling you to do your research. And this has been the morning show, the first of many morning shows, folks. I'm going to be bringing you on some really good people, people that I've connected with that I think have integrity in their message, not just big names, so that we're not distributing false information and setting somebody back years because of our nonsense. That's not going to happen here. And if I am wrong about something, I would always definitely try to correct it. But again, it's all about doing good research, and I don't want to speak on things. That's why I did not get deeply into Fat Joe, Tyler Perry yet. I have to really go through the transcripts. Right now, I'm still focused on Diddy case, but going forward, we're going to cover cases that you guys have interest in. And I think most of the things that I'm interested in, most people find pretty intriguing. There's so much with Trump to unpack, especially because different moves that the president make, if you purchase the right stock, it aligns you to be successful financially. And that's the name of the game, because once you have your money together, then you can get to the next level. Most people, like in the ghetto, in the hood, or country, all these stigmas that they have, a lot of them are on government assistance and barely eating, barely have a decent place to sleep. So, how can you actually get to the next level? Or how can a kid go to school and do well with their work and their stomach is growling? So, you have to financially have things checked off. So now you can go to the next level. Now I can go to Diddy's trial if I want to. I could fly to Kalamazoo tomorrow if I want to and cover something. That should be the aim. It's not about all this other craziness that people have you believe and you need to impress others. Others, believe me, the only people that are going to probably ride out for you is going to be your parents and maybe your kids if you're fortunate. Most people come and go. Your best friend, I tell my child, your best friend at 17, you'll be fortunate to even talk to them when you hit 45, believe me. So it's all about making good decisions. And this is a morning show, and I've gotten a little bit too deep with this. So I'm going to end the show now, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Now, I will say this. I have Jada Kiss father. They have an awesome brand of coffee, and I recently had a great meeting with the team. Okay, I'm going to bring his father on. I'm talking about Jada Kiss, the rapper. I'm going to bring his father on, but he's helping me develop, yes, folks, an incredible coffee. I'm a coffee guy. I have to start my day with coffee. It is what it is, folks. But I'm coming out. It's going to be an incredible brand. And I'm also going to have a great watching the World Cup for those who, at some point, I have to be able to sit down and do all that stuff. I just don't have the time now because I'm going to the courthouse. I commute an hour and a half each way every day. So imagine that. It's been quite the challenge. But guess what? I've been doing it for 7 weeks, and now it's about to come to the end. A good thing is now I no longer have to stand in line. I can't explain it to you why and how it developed, but now I can go to the courtroom and go sit in my seat that they have allotted for me. So, folks, hard work pays off, you know. And also, I can tell you right now, I'm going to interview probably the most, uh, I don't want to say it out, the most significant person in this case. So when I get that interview, you'll see why I do what I do, folks. Thank you for tuning in. Please like and share if you like the material. If not, it's okay. We're still going to keep moving, folks. But do whatever it takes to make yourself happy, but try to position yourself financially and also your children, your legacy. That's what this movement is about. And thank you for tuning in. This is going to be a consistent morning show. I will be doing another show, which will be more of a night show. And if those who want to, just tune in to the morning club, the morning show, folks. And I'm off to court down in New York City, 500 Pearl Street. I will be covering Luigi Mangione. I'm definitely going to be covering that case. There's a rapper named K Flocker. I'm going to be covering the rest of his trial. Um, he'll be getting his verdict soon. I will be in Texas to cover Yellow Beezy case. I'll definitely be covering that. I have so many different cases I'll be covering, but primarily I'm covering cases, folks. So thank you. But I will be covering anything in the headlines that I find to be significant and that people want to hear about. So thank you for tuning in. Thanks for supporting Watching the World. And I definitely will keep bringing you um, information that has some sort of integrity to it, not something that's just coded up to make you feel happy inside, but it's not accurate. Okay. So thank you and have a great day. And like my Uncle Mitchell would always say, God bless America.